Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk. I'm your host, Noed, and in today's episode, let's talk about the art of storytelling. Stay tuned. Well, thank you for tuning in. Now, I got to tell you, I I didn't plan on recording this episode. There was no plan at all. This was just something that I just turned on my camera, put on my mic, and that's it. The lighting is not even right. But I think that for this particular topic, I'm like, forget it. I'm going to get the message out and I want to share with the people what's on my mind regarding this particular topic. And it could be because, well, as of the date of this recording, it is October 1st, 2025, which is the start of a lot of awareness. This particular month, we commemorate uh, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We do have the latter part of Hispanic Heritage Month. We also have Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And that is a topic that is very close to home because my two children and I are domestic violence survivors. And in light of that, I've had some things to kind of ponder on and just trying to figure out like how much do we really talk about? Maybe it's a good time to share a little bit more of our story because it can really help other people out, but maybe we shouldn't because, you don't want to ever glorify the gore or anything like that. But people's got to know because it took me a minute to try to figure out, wait, is this domestic violence? Am I experiencing that? Does that fall into this criteria? And it even took me a good while to reconcile and say, oh yeah, that was domestic violence, what we experienced, because it didn't look how we think it's supposed to look. But for starters, listen, we know that violence exists, right? We know that violence exists domestically and abroad, and it occurs at home, but it also occurs in the streets. Uh, we see it in police brutality. We see gang violence. We see, wars across the world. Violence is everywhere. We do see violence even in places of employment, maybe not so much in the Western world, but violence exists everywhere and it does exist at home as well. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people, especially like an older generation, they just see domestic violence. We tend to see domestic violence as just a way of life. Like, that's normal. Um, to beat up one another, and it's normal to be verbally abusive, it's normal to be financially abusive, it's normal to intimidate, to isolate. That's just a way of life, and it was a way of life for many, 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 many people, um and it still is. But I think now we have an awareness of it and we can identify it, and I think social media plays a big part of it. And also the fact that I think in this day and age, we have more resources, and knowing that I'm not going to say the majority of women because I don't have case studies or statistics to back up what I'm going to say, but most of the people who experience domestic violence tend to be women. And now we're in a day and age where women are more educated than ever before. Women can have their own bank accounts, they can have jobs and things like that. But that being said, it brings me to point number one on this, which again, I didn't plan any points, but we're just throwing points out there. Point number one, we need to stop with the notion or the stereotype, right? That says that, or the assumption that domestic violence really is between couples only, and that the woman typically is the victim. I've had a man share with me his story on how his ex-spouse used to push him, used to beat on him, and nobody believed him. And the people that did believe him, do you think that they were nice about it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like how dare you get hit by a woman? But also I think there's the assumption of, that domestic violence equates to having hands laid on. And that's not necessarily the case. And I know that's not the point of the episode. Point of the episode, and I promise that I'm getting to it. I won't make this too long. It is the power of storytelling. And as I enter this month of October, I have been considering sharing anecdotes and sharing more stories as to what we lived through, what transpired in our household. I seldomly share that. I really don't ever share it. Maybe an anecdote here and there if I know you personally and it just happens to come up in conversation. But there's a purpose for that. Number one, although this person, by the way, we experienced domestic violence at the hands of a person that I used to be married to I was married to for about 15 years. We lived together 14 because we had to be separated for a year before the divorce was finalized. So total, we were married 15 years. And he that's the human that I procreated two children with. So although my children have their particular opinions and feelings towards him, I really don't ever want to. And even though he's done what he's done, I never want to come out and bashing this person. At the end of the day, that is the human that I procreated these two children with, although we don't have any zero contact with him. So there's that. But also, I don't ever want to glorify the gore. I want to focus on the story of redemption of like, hey, we were free, we how we healed and how we're currently still in the restoration process and what that looks like and how we're kind of still healing here and there because healing is not linear. There's not an end date to it. There's not a hey, you've completed your healing process. Not at all. Um, with that said, my focus from the beginning has always been let's talk about freedom, healing, and restoration. I don't share anecdotes because I don't ever want to glorify the gore and be like, look what we went through. And sometimes people that have experienced domestic violence, and I think people do it in general when they've gone through a hardship, it almost becomes competitive. Like, let me tell you what I went through. And although they don't say it like that, it can come across as, huh, my thing was worse than your thing versus, wow, like you lived through that too, but I'm glad you two made it. Um, so for that reason, I haven't really shared details of our story. But in light of all of this, I'm like, it's time. It is time. And the reason why it is time is because storytelling has such power to transform a life. And I know that sounds so dramatic to say, but to me, that's the case. You never know who you can inspire to either do better in life or to stop doing stuff that they don't need to be doing, even if their story or their journey is not the same as yours. Like, for instance, I could be talking about domestic violence and certain things that happened, and somebody else who's not experiencing domestic violence can still resonate and say, wow, I see how she overcame that. I see how she fought through maybe depression or fought through this. I'm battling a completely different thing on my end, but the sentiment is exact. I'm hurt as well with what I'm going through, where I'm discouraged, and you could still be inspired by. And there is such power with storytelling. And maybe, possibly, you maybe haven't gone through something major, at least you may not think you have. But the point is, from the moment of your conception, you already come with a story. I mean, us mamas, we are huge on, oh my goodness, us birth mothers, we're really big on, let me tell you how I conceived and let me tell you how I found out I was pregnant, or or parents that or moms that are adoptive moms, let me tell you how I first learned about my baby and how we adopted them. And we're so, the moment that we know that somebody knows that you are in their life, there's a story to it. So as long as you have been alive, you have a story to tell. We have all the way to the end, all the way to the end. And it may not seem as big, but I'm telling you, your story matters. Um, so start sharing anecdotes with whoever will listen. Not everybody may listen. Some people may get irritated. It may have zero patience, but share your story. Also, man, and this reminds me of Hamilton a little bit. If you've seen the musical, it's the part where they're like, who lives, who dies, who tells your story? And yeah, how in the world are you supposed to pass on your legacy if you are not telling stories to forward? So yeah, it's very important to story tell. Like again, you never know who you can inspire, and also sometimes people will think like if when you don't share stories or anecdotes about your life, I think sometimes people will think that you are who you are just because, right? They don't know the cost of being you. They don't know that okay, if you let's say achieved any measure of success, so to speak, and I know success is such a broad term, an ambiguous term. It means something different for everybody. But they don't know the cost of said success. They don't know the work that you put into it. They don't know the tears and the suffering and the sacrifices and things like that. So, in sharing your stories, like, whoa, the work they had to put in, whoa, the pain, whoa, the late nights and the self doubt and the questioning and the hardship they had to go through, the amount of times that they have failed and still got back up and handle business. And also, a lot of people are going through stuff that are similar, very similar to yours. And in knowing that, okay, that person is wow, that person's going through that too. I don't know why it just makes us feel better to know that we are not alone. Like somebody, there's nothing new under the sun. Somebody else has experienced it. So it's time to start talking. And I, as an introvert, love this. See, us introverts, we reset in our moments of quiet time. We reset and refuel our cup when we have moments of solitude. Although I myself, and I'm an introvert, I do enjoy lengthy conversations on a one-on-one level, not in a crowd. Like if I could sit with somebody at a table like where I'm sitting now, I could talk for hours and share and listen to them. And by the end of it, it's like my cup is full hearing their story. And I think that's why quality time is one of my faves. But it's important. It's important that we share our stories. So, with that said, how can you share your story? Well, I mean, you can, excuse me, my pet's over here. Um, so, I mean, you can try getting on stories, sharing in your social media. You can do all that. Uh, sure, you can you can journal. Everybody's different. Some people love to journal. Maybe you want to do video diaries to leave behind. You can do that as well. Or you could simply invite somebody to coffee, go on a walk with somebody, and start sharing your stories. Or if you don't want to share your story, which is the whole point of this video and this little chat, ask ask people for their story. Start asking them, especially like the elders in your family and stuff. You listen, you'd be surprised. The whole it's like, whoa, you lived a whole life. And here I thought you were uncle whatever or TT or auntie whatever. Meanwhile, you've lived a whole life and have gone on this crazy journey and adventure. So, all that to say, start sharing your story. In fact, I would love to hear your story. So, if you want a message, include part of your story in the comments, by all means. What is your story? And with that said, have a blessed day.